Welcome to the Indian Council of World Affairs, India's oldest foreign policy think tank.
Many people interested in foreign policy have told me when they come to the Indian Council of World Affairs in Sapru House, they feel a great sense of affinity with this institution because this was where the serious study of international relations in India all began.
The ICWA was set up by a small group of public intellectuals some years before our independence, because they felt it important that India have an independent perspective on international affairs. Since then, the ICWA has gone from strength to strength, and it has been a long journey, almost 75 years. One particular milestone in that journey was in 2001, when the Indian Parliament passed an act declaring the ICWA to be an institution of national importance. We thus became a publicly funded independent think tank. Our governing council is headed by the Vice President of India, and the External Affairs Minister is its Vice President. We have three focus areas. The first is research, which is carried out by an in-house faculty. Very rigorous research on different parts of the world, encompassing the domain of area studies.
The Council has been very proactive in conducting dialogue and discussion on African affairs and India-Africa relations in order to promote an understanding on African affairs in India, an Indian perspective on Africa, given the priority that now Africa has in Indian foreign policy.
Within the Council, we have a renewed focus on Latin America and the Caribbean region. So we're looking through our studies to find new areas of cooperation such as renewable energy, climate change and the space technology.
Interacting with leading experts, diplomats, media persons and academicians has helped me nurture my research further.
We recently had the Asean Indo-Pacific outlook, which has a lot of convergence with the India's own Indo-Pacific construct.
The learning curve at the Council has been tremendous, and it provides a strong foundation for my future research.
The second is policy. Because we are a think tank, and being close to policy, commenting on policy, and helping formulate policy is an essential part of our functioning.
I think in the new age, what we're seeing much more of is that people want to be involved in foreign policy thinking. They want to have a voice. Now this is where ICWA comes in.
This is the platform where I for many years have come and interacted with the best in the world.
ICWA provides a valued platform for visiting foreign dignitaries to interact with informed Indian audiences. The third is outreach. This is most important because of our role as a public-funded independent think tank, and we carry this out by associating ourselves with as wide an audience in India as is possible. Colleges, universities, other think tanks, and of course with similar institutions elsewhere in the world.
What I would call the democratization of Indian foreign policy. It has moved to distant corners of the country. It is no longer a preserve of Delhi.
ICWA has a robust publications program which includes papers by the in-house faculty, invited papers and commentaries, and books on foreign affairs by not only former diplomats and established academics but also by upcoming scholars. Our journal India Quarterly is being published since 1945. ICWA's publications are also being translated into various Indian languages. What is ICWA's role as we move into the future? The vision of the institution is to stay abreast of all the momentous changes taking place in the domain of foreign policy. New areas are emerging. There are strategic technologies, there is climate change, there is artificial intelligence, and there is cybersecurity. How can our research faculty and the audiences that come here be better informed about developments in these areas? How can we write and formulate research papers to give policy inputs that help in government policy formulation? These are the emerging challenges for ICWA and form a part of our vision for the future.
Hello. Hello, sir.
A very good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the ICWA VIISAS International Webinar on the theme New Horizons in India-Vietnam Relations, organized by the Indian Council of World Affairs and Vietnam Institute for Indian and Southwest Asia Studies, VIISAS, an affiliation of Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences. The webinar will deliberate upon recent developments in India and Vietnam relations and identify new horizons in the bilateral comprehensive strategic partnership in the changing geopolitics of the region and the world. It is our pleasure to partner with VIISAS and continue our engagement with the academic community from Vietnam despite the pandemic. After the opening session of today's webinar, which will be addressed by honorable ministers from India and Vietnam, we will have two panel discussions themed Vietnam and India in the new regional and global context and New Horizons in Vietnam, India Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Before we begin, I would like to mention the house rules. All speakers are requested to mute themselves when not speaking. In case you are facing connectivity issues, you may switch off the camera and continue on audio mode. May I now request Professor Dan Nguyen An, Vice President, VAS, to begin the program with his welcome remarks.
His Excellencies Mr. Muralidharan, Minister of State for External Affairs of India, His Excellency Mr. Nguyen Minh Vu, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam, Ambassador Dr. Rahawan, Director General of International Council for Affairs, Mr. Pranay Verma, Ambassador of India to Vietnam, Mr. Phạm Sang Châu, Ambassador of Vietnam to India. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to warmly welcome all of you to the international webinar titled New Horizons in Vietnam-India Relations, jointly organized by Indian Council of World Affairs and the Institute of Indian and Southeast Asian Studies, Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences. It is a big privilege for us to hold this online meeting. As you know, the mutual relationships between Vietnam and India have come a long way since...
Recording is on.
Hello? Has come a long way of more than 2,000 years of cultural exchange and nearly 5 decades of fully established diplomatic relationship. Our partnerships between the two countries has been evolving in a steady upward direction from consular level in 1956 to the full diplomatic relations in 1972 and strategic partnership in 2007 and now a comprehensive strategic partnerships in 2016. Particular, these relationships is grounded on the foundations of friendship, loyalty, mutual trust, and belief in peace, prosperity of the two people, for the stability, security of the regions in the march toward the new horizons. And the world is witnessing the rise of the East, with power moving from Europe to Asia, making Asia the fulcrum of global politics and economics. And in the context of the newly emergence Asian century, both India and Vietnam have a great potential to play important roles in bringing about stability and development in the region. And as two dynamic economies in the world, Vietnam is transforming itself in the Pacific regions and India also becoming a global power. the government of Vietnam and India has launched a common interest. We know that a self-reliant vision in India with a view to recover the economy devastated by the coronavirus pandemic with a suitable recovery and sustainable way for the society, environment, as well as economy. On the 25th of August this year, the two countries have successfully organized 17 sections of the Joint Commission on Economic, Trade, Science, and Technologies cooperation, giving a new momentum for bilateral relations, heading toward the 50th anniversary of the diplomatic relationships in 2022. And the world is witnessing a new opportunity as well as many challenges today associated with the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, protectionism and nationalism. This is a strong testing for the traditional long-lasting friendships between Vietnam and India and bring the two countries up to the new horizons, as our today's seminar suggests. It is a new horizon of international integration, connectivity, and development for shared prosperity. However, the COVID pandemic has become a strong catalyst for the developments in the direction of restructuring of the global economy and policies and politics. It emphasized the need for a new philosophy of development focusing on the people and conservation of environment. And in this context, even the position of the two countries in the international arena and the new geopolitical and geo-economic realities, we can be confident to say that there is plenty of room for Vietnam and India to cooperate and to bring about the greater benefits for our people. And New Horizons is a vital part of our external policy in the years to come. Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, with this event, I am looking forward to hearing perspectives from the participants on the new ideas about Vietnam-India relationship in the direction to new horizons. I believe that it would require a new approach, a new visions to make our partnership truly go far in the field of economy, defense, security, culture, education, science and technologies, and our joint actions at multilateral fora. New horizons in Vietnam-India relationships share visions toward the futures, in which our comprehensive strategic partnership will become a key of connectivity in the Indo-Pacific regions and contribute to the peace, stability, and prosperity of the region and the world. And I am delighted to have many experts, stakeholders from both sides among us, and I look forward to the discussion we will have today. And once again, I would like to warmly welcome you to this international webinar with many useful and effective exchanges the next few hours. And wishing you well, happiness, and peace. I wish the conference a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to request Dr. T.C.A. Raghavan, Director General ICWA, to kindly give his welcome remarks. Sir.
Thank you, His Excellency, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Vietnam, Mr. Nhu Minh Wu, His Excellency Shri V. Muralidharan, Minister of State, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, His Excellency Ambassador Pham Sang Chau, Ambassador of the Vietnam to India, Professor Dang Nguyen Ah, Ambassador Pranay Verma, ladies and gentlemen, greetings and good afternoon to all of you. May I begin by thanking Professor Dang Nguyen An, Vice President of the Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences, for his welcome remarks. The Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences is a valuable partner of the Indian Council of World Affairs since 2016. The MOU between our two institutions was signed during the visit of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to Hanoi in September 2016. Since then, we have had 2 rounds of very fruitful dialogue with the Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences in 2019 in New Delhi and in Hanoi in 2017. We hope to resume our dialogue once the ongoing global pandemic passes over. The Vietnam Institute of Indian and Southwest Asian Studies is an affiliate of VIISAS, and it is our pleasure to interact with this institute for today's webinar. India and Vietnam share long and traditional friendly relations, the foundations of which were laid by the fathers of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi and Ho Chi Minh, and nurtured by successive generations of leaders and peoples of the two countries. Our ties are built on the firm foundation of close cultural, historical, civilizational links that are marked by mutual trust and understanding, as well as strong cooperation in regional and international fora. This particular year is extremely special for most of us, for all of us in India, because we have recently completed the observance of the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's birth. Our bilateral relationship has been thriving in all areas since the establishment of the strategic partnership in 2007 and its elevation to a comprehensive strategic partnership in 2016. Recent high-level exchanges between both countries have resulted in robust cooperation in several areas, expansion of defense and security ties, forging of closer economic and commercial linkages, and deepening of people-to-people engagement. Vietnam is a pivot of India's Act East policy. We have a convergence of views and interests on global and regional issues. Both India and Vietnam have a role in the maintenance and reinforcement of an open, transparent, inclusive, and rule-based regional architecture. Vietnam has India's full support for its chairmanship of ASEAN this year. We are appreciative of its positive leadership of ASEAN in a year when the world has had to face the onslaught of a global pandemic. We coordinate closely in different multilateral fora, including in the UN Security Council. Our meeting today takes place amidst a grave pandemic, and we do hope that our deliberations will throw up certain policy takeaways of how we can leverage our membership of different regional and international fora to advance issues in global priorities that would be of benefit to both our countries as also to other developing countries. It gives us great pleasure and it is a privilege that the Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Sri V. Muralidharan, will be delivering the keynote address and sharing his thoughts with us today, which will be followed by remarks by His Excellency Mr. Nguyen Minh Mu, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam. Our discussions today will benefit greatly from the esteemed presence of both ministers. May I say in conclusion that I greatly look forward to our deliberations where scholars from both sides would discuss new horizons in India-Vietnam strategic partnership in the changing geopolitics of the region and the world. Thank you very much.
It is my pleasure to invite Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Sri V. Muralidharan, to kindly deliver the keynote address.
Excellency Nguyen Minh Bu, Deputy Minister of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam, His Excellency Sir Dong Nguyen An, Vice President of VIISAS, Ambassador Dr. T.C.A. Raghavan, Ambassador Pham Sang Chow, Ambassador Pranay Verma, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Namaskaram and good afternoon. It gives me immense pleasure to address this august gathering today and share my views on the new horizons in India-Vietnam bilateral relations. We are sitting apart, but our hearts and souls are connected. We all are living in an extraordinary situation due to the COVID-19 pandemic that has changed the way we interact and engage. I'm glad to note that we have continued to maintain multifaceted engagements with Vietnam, including at the highest levels. Honorable Vice President, Madam Dang Thi Nang Chin visited India in February this year. In April, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc spoke on telephone not only to exchange views on COVID-19 situation, but also to discuss the future trajectory of our bilateral relations in 2020. Our two foreign ministers also reviewed the entire gamut of our bilateral relationship during the 17th virtual Joint Commission meeting held on 25th August 2020. This goes without saying that India enjoys a special relationship with Vietnam, since the glorious civilizational linkages of the past to the today's comprehensive strategic partnership, we have grown together in the socio-cultural, trade and commerce fields. Friends, due to special attention given by the leaderships from India and Vietnam, today our comprehensive strategic partnership spans a wide range of collaboration, from political engagement to economic and development partnership, defense and security cooperation, energy cooperation, cultural exchanges and people-to-people contacts. Our businesses are re-engaging after the initial disruptions due to the pandemic, with industry chambers on both sides coming together through online platforms. Last year, India ranked as the 7th largest trading partner of Vietnam with bilateral trade of around $12 billion US. This is still not commensurate with the levels of our economic development and the fact that we both are among the fastest growing economies in the world today. And therefore, we need to do more to broaden and intensify our trade relations to achieve its full potential. This is the right time for our businesses and investors to work together for utilizing the new opportunities being presented by COVID-19. As global trade and commerce repositions in the changed context, both our countries can work together to explore new supply chains and new partnerships with each other. At the same time, we also need to upgrade the 2009 ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement, the AITIGA. In its present form, does not reflect today's economic realities and is unable to meet India's expectations. India hopes that Vietnam, as the chair of ASEAN, can help in launching the review of AITIGA at the earliest. We believe that this step will create new opportunities for taking forward our trade engagement in the ASEAN region. Friends, our development partnership with Vietnam has been steadily growing, in addition to the capacity building exchanges for managing COVID-19. Our partnership has entered new domains, including science and technology, space applications, information and communication technology, physical and digital connectivity, civil nuclear energy, water resources development, and so on. India's quick impact projects in several provinces of Vietnam are bringing speedy and tangible socio-economic benefits to the common people of Vietnam. I'm happy to note that this year, my ministry has announced to implement 7 quick impact projects for water resource management in the Mekong Delta region, which has been witnessing the harsh realities of climate change issues. In addition to the above projects, we have also agreed to undertake 5 other quick impact projects in the field of education infrastructure. I am also glad to note that our archaeological experts have been contributing to the heritage conservation projects in the My Son in Quang Nam province. The discovery of a magnificent icon of 9th century AD monolithic Shivalinga at the My Son is a testimony of our close cultural linkage. I am happy to share that this new find has caught the popular attention among the people of India. The growing popularity of yoga in Vietnam is another example of our close cultural and people-to-people ties. Our civilizational connect brought yoga to Vietnam's shores in the first millennium and has deeply influenced the lives of people there. In modern times, as yoga is helping to connect humanity across the world to acquire a healthy and fulfilling lifestyle, it's heartening to see the popularity of yoga across the length and breadth of Vietnam. I have also noted that since 2015, India and Vietnam have been partnering closely to observe the International Day of Yoga every year, creating awareness about yoga and bringing its benefits to millions of practitioners. Friends, our cooperation in the area of defense and security has been a core element of our strategic calculus in the wider Indo-Pacific region. The defense partnership also provides us a great degree of comfort in our bilateral engagements. It contains several dimensions, including military exchanges, training, joint exercises, UN peacekeeping, and ship visits, to name a few. Defense industrial cooperation is the new focus of our engagement, with defense lines of credit worth $600 million being oriented towards strengthening Vietnam's domestic defense manufacturing. In the wider global and regional context, we consider Vietnam as a key pillar of India's Act East policy and an important partner for our Indo-Pacific vision. India is committed to promote peace, stability, and prosperity of our shared region. We are happy that ASEAN countries, including Vietnam, have come up with their own outlook on the Indo-Pacific, which is broadly similar to India's Indo-Pacific vision. Together, they provide a useful roadmap to promote regional integration through connectivity and collaboration. Our close coordination at several international forums is another important aspect of our relationship. India is going to join Vietnam as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council on 1st January 2021. With their voices of moderation and inclusivity, respect for international law, and commitment to reformed multilateralism, The concurrent presence of India and Vietnam in the Security Council provides a robust basis for a more meaningful cooperation between them on global issues. It's heartening to see that both India and Vietnam are today contributing to regional and global peace and development through UN peacekeeping as well as through committed actions towards achieving sustainable development goals and addressing climate change. With Vietnam successfully steering the ASEAN presidency, despite the disruptions of COVID-19, India's engagements with Vietnam and ASEAN have been further strengthened. We recall with gratitude Vietnam's most constructive role in facilitating our engagement with ASEAN as our country coordinator during 2015-18 and ensuring the success of the ASEAN-India Commemorative Summit in January 2018 in New Delhi. Friends, we have achieved some remarkable milestones last year in the field of connectivity when direct flights started operating between India and Vietnam. These flights have potential to give a boost to tourism exchanges between India and Vietnam and bring our peoples closer together. Our common Buddhist heritage offers a significant tourism attraction. There are many Vietnamese Buddhist pagodas in places like Bodh Gaya and Varanasi. Government of India has also liberalized its e-visa regime with significant reductions in visa fees and with visas for longer duration. This will greatly facilitate tourists from Vietnam visiting India. Apart from enhancing tourism, we are also hopeful that these convenient direct connections will encourage businesses on both sides to work on their complementarities and push the level of our economic ties. The year 2020 has recast the landscape of human interaction by bringing an unprecedented crisis to the humankind in the form of COVID-19 pandemic. At this difficult time, India has been working closely with the global community to help in containing and controlling the pandemic. As the pharmacy of the world, India's priority is to make available all supportive pharmaceutical products that can aid effective pandemic management efforts. India is also at the forefront of global efforts to develop a vaccine for the benefit of the entire humanity. In shaping the global response to COVID-19, Prime Minister Modi has underlined the concept of human-centric globalization that seeks economic revival based on care and compassion. He has also envisioned a self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, as it is called in Hindi, which is self-sustaining and resilient, not by isolating India, but by building capacities at home so that India can integrate better with the global value chains. We believe that given its size, capacities and ambitions, India has to be a major factor in the post-pandemic global revival. And the steps that India is taking are not incremental, they are transformative. Friends, as I conclude my remarks, I would like to underline that working together with Vietnam, one of our closest friends and most trusted partners, to take our comprehensive strategic partnership to newer heights is aligned with our national development priorities and global outlook. Thank you for the attention. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us. Our deliberations today have benefited from your presence. Now I take the opportunity to invite Honorable Deputy Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Vietnam, His Excellency Mr. Nguyen Minh Vu, to kindly deliver his remarks.
Honorable Morales Haran, Minister of State for External Affairs of India, Professor Dang, Vice President of Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences, Ambassador Dr. Rahavan, Director General of Indian Council of World Affairs, Excellency Ambassador Pranav Verma, and Ambassador Phạm Thanh Châu, distinguished speakers, participants, Indian and Vietnamese friends. Namaste. It is my great honor to represent the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam at this webinar. At this outset, I would like to thank and commend the Indian Council of World Affairs and the Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences for the initiative and the effort they have made in organizing this very important event, which testifies the liveliness and the robustness of our bilateral ties, even in these challenging times. I would also like to thank Minister of State Murali Haran for his valued participation and his great keynote speech, as well as Vice President Dang Nguyen and Ambassador Rakhavan of the ICWA for the very fine point they have made concerning Vietnam and Indian bilateral relations. I think all of these comments underline the importance that each of our countries have attached to our comprehensive strategic partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, the cultural, religious, and commercial interaction between Vietnam and India dates back over 2,000 years ago. The Buddhist and the Hindu relics of Indian origin are still found in many parts of Vietnam, including the famous Nicene Sanctuary, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that was one home to the Champa Kingdom that Minister of External Affairs India had just mentioned. And today, even today, the modern Indian art have also been well and lively received in Vietnam. Following his trip to Vietnam back in 1929, the great poet Tagore and his immortal works have touched many Vietnamese hearts. And Indian cultural influence is also increasingly apparent in Vietnam. Minister had just mentioned the spread of yoga, and also the Indian spirituality and also Indian dancing are also increasingly attractive to Vietnamese audience, people from all walks of life in Vietnam. And former ties between Vietnam and India were also founded some 70 years ago by the great President Ho Chi Minh and Prime Minister Nehru, and since then has been nurtured and fostered and forged by a successive generation of our leaders and people. Prime Minister Nehru is the very first foreign leader to officially visit the independent Vietnam, only a week after Hanoi was liberated in 1954. And President Ho Chi Minh reciprocated with an 11-day state visit, I think the longest state visit by a Vietnamese leader to India, one of the longest visits by a state leader of Vietnam in 1958. And besides his great friendship with Nehru, Ho Chi Minh also expressed on numerous occasions his admiration, great admiration for Mahatma Gandhi, and once wrote, "I and others may be revolutionary, but we are all disciples of Mahatma Gandhi, directly or indirectly, nothing more, nothing less." Due to the increasing convergence of our strategic interests, Vietnam and India are natural friends and partners. We have always supported each other in our respective struggle for independence and subsequent national development. India is among Vietnam's first strategic partner in 2007 and is one of the only 3 comprehensive strategic partners as of now since 2016. Despite disruption caused by COVID-19, Vietnam and India have managed to adapt to the new normal thanks to our 2 ambassadors, among others. And we have been able to maintain our regular high-level interactions. Our 2 prime ministers have stayed in touch through COVID-19, and the recent virtual 17th meeting of the Joint Commission for Bilateral Cooperation was co-chaired by our 2 foreign ministers. Bilateral trade and investment has seen strong development. Two-way trade turnover has increased more than tenfold, standing at over $11 billion in 2019. And India has also moved up in the ranks of foreign investors in Vietnam with some 300 projects and aggregate registered capital of nearly $1 billion US. I think it's far below Indian real potential. We want India to make much more investment in Vietnam. And defense and security cooperation has become an increasingly important area of our cooperation towards greater substance to increase exchanges, dialogues, training, and technical collaboration. We have also made great efforts to expand and deepen our cooperation in emerging sectors such as agriculture, forestry, fishery, light industry, mining, transport, telecommunication, tourism, just to name a few. And one of the highlights of development in our relation was the opening of direct flights between Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, and New Delhi, and Kolkata in 2019. And for this to happen, I have to highlight and commend great effort by our two ambassadors in Hanoi and New Delhi make it possible. And this immediately led to a 50% increase in two-way tourism and cooperation in regional and international fora, such as in United Nations Fora, in East Asia Summit, in ASEAN Plus Fora, and Mekong Ganga Forum. Increasingly important, has intensified its greater substance and effectiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, our world is going through a very complicated, complex, unprecedented turbulence. The COVID-19 pandemic has not only resulted in the worst global health crisis and economic recession in many decades, but has also accelerated recent major global trends. Globalization is facing increased resistance. Strategic competition between major powers has intensified, and more hotspots have emerged and resurfaced in different parts of the world, including in our region. And against this backdrop, traditional as well as non-traditional security threats have also created unprecedented volatility and complexity in international relations. More than ever before, we expect India to play a more active role as a great power in addressing global and regional issues of common concern. How we perceive India, its role and position in today's evolving regional and global context. We see India as a major power, a great geopolitical, geoeconomic, and geostrategic significance. India is among the world's oldest civilization, home to the world's second largest population. It is also a technology powerhouse and will soon to be one of the world's largest economies. And in fact, India is playing an increasingly important role in global issues, including nuclear security, climate change, and counter-terrorism. India is also a key player in the emerging architecture in the Indo-Pacific and globally. I follow very closely the remarks made by Prime Minister Modi in his recent attendance at the UN General Assembly. And I really share what he talked about the importance and the necessity to have a reformed multilateralism that reflects today's reality, be voice to all stakeholders, and addresses contemporary challenges and focuses on human welfare. We in Vietnam and we in ASEAN cannot agree more. I think without respect for international law, multilateralism, and common norms or differences among nations, territorial dispute, even in our region, in South China Sea or in Eastern Sea or in other parts of the region, would lead to confrontation. And transnational issues may get worse or get out of control. Without free and open trade and investment, commercial and investment flows will be impeded, further exacerbating global inequality. And without countries' mutual respect for each other, legitimate and lawful interests, conflicts would more easily arise. And without common understanding, tolerance, and vision for the common and greater good, the world could be fertile breeding grounds for unilateralism, fanatical, narrow-minded nationalism, and terrorism, India has seen. And until and unless we address these challenges together, and until and unless India played a more important role, befitting its role, its position, and its stature in this today's world, I think the Asian century, as Professor Ayn explained, may not come soon. So it's very important, and we in ASEAN and we in Vietnam expect India to assume even a more active, more responsible role, benefiting her stature and position in the region and beyond. As far as the future of our relation is concerned, I remain, however, optimistic about its bright prospect for the following reason. First, we hold high regard for each other's position, attach due importance to our bilateral relation. India has always been a very important partner in Vietnam's independent and self-reliant foreign policy. And likewise, India has affirmed Vietnam's pivotal role in its Act East policy. As an emerging middle-income country that wishes to play a more active and responsible role in the international arena and integrate ourselves more deeply into the global economy, Vietnam sees India a very important and reliable companion. Second, thanks to our long-standing historical and cultural connection, deep mutual understanding and political trust, strong political will and commitment, as well as a sound system of bilateral cooperation mechanism, we have the tools necessary to enhance our partnership beyond bilateral constraint, with a view to contributing to regional peace, stability, and prosperity. And third, Vietnam and India share a common vision for and converging interest in maintaining peace, stability, cooperation in the region and the world, based on a rule-based order, respect for international law, and support for multilateralism. In this regard, Vietnam welcomes effort to capitalize on the similarity and create synergy in Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative and the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, especially in the areas of maritime cooperation, connectivity, the UN 2030 agenda, including the 17 SDGs, economic and other areas of cooperation. We look forward to working even more closely with India at multilateral fora, particularly on the UN Security Council, where we will both serve as non-permanent member in 2021. And fourth, given our long history of cultural, religious, and commercial interaction, people-to-people and business-to-business links are important components of bilateral ties and will continue to grow strongly now that there are direct flights between our two major cities. The fact that Vietnam has managed to retain positive growth and become an increasingly attractive market as well as a link in the global FTA network would also create many opportunities for businesses from both countries. We are also pleased to witness the increasing interaction between the two countries' think tanks and academia. Check 2 or 1.5 events like this webinar serve to increase mutual understanding and cooperation and should be further encouraged. All in all, I'm confident in the bright prospect Vietnam-India relationship. I look forward to the upcoming section on the webinar, as well as new ideas to further deepen our comprehensive strategic partnership for the benefit of our two people, to contribute to peace, stability, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Ambassador Pranay Kumar, Ambassador of India to Vietnam, to kindly give his remarks.
Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Sri V. Muralidharan, Honorable Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam, His Excellency Mr. Nguyen Minh Hu, Vice President of Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences, Professor Tan Nguyen Anh, Director General of Indian Council of World Affairs, Ambassador Dr. T.C. Ratla, Ambassador of Vietnam to India, His Excellency Mr. Pham San Chau, and Director of Vietnam Institute of Indian and Southwest Asian Studies, Professor Nguyen Chuan Chu. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. As the COVID-19 pandemic resets many of the templates on which human lives and behaviors are organized, it is quite timely that today's discussion seeks to explore the future of India-Vietnam relations in the new context. As our keynote speaker, Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, as well as the Deputy Foreign Minister of Vietnam have pointed out, there is enough confidence on both sides in the future of this important relationship. To begin with, the deep reservoir of political and strategic mutual trust and understanding between our two countries provides a solid foundation for our cooperation to take a new leap forward. We also share developmental instincts as two aspirational societies with a young demography yearning for progress and prosperity. Faced with the uncertainties of COVID-19, both India and Vietnam aspire for self-reliance to become self-sustaining and resilient. As Honorable Minister mentioned, our self-reliance is for developing ourselves so that we can engage in global economy more capably, more confidently. Our nationalism too, unlike much of the rest of the world today, is not inward-looking, but rather very internationalist in its outlook. We are willing to shoulder regional and international responsibilities for collective good and mutual development. We are also two countries increasingly driven by the promise of new technology, innovation, and digitization to deliver economic growth and people's empowerment. This is the context that gives us much hope for a bright horizon in India-Vietnam relations. Much of this has already been elegantly articulated by our two ministers. I will touch upon only a few of them. Let us take our economic engagement. As Honorable Minister of State mentioned, the pandemic has pushed us into rethinking the way we engage with each other. And it is here that new opportunities emerge. Today, as we explore new partnerships and resilient supply chains, which are based on trust rather than economic expediency, there is an opportunity for India and Vietnam to expand their economic linkages. To do so effectively, and again, as Honorable Minister mentioned, we must also upgrade our trading architecture by expeditiously undertaking the long overdue review of ASEAN-India Trade and Goods Agreement. As India positions itself as a leading factor in the post-COVID global economic revival, it creates opportunities, demands, and capacities from which close partners like Vietnam stand to benefit immensely. Likewise, Vietnam's ambition to become a high-income economy by 2045 creates new horizons for our partnership, the region, and globally. Our defense engagement, another key pillar of our comprehensive strategic partnership, is poised to grow. As Honorable Minister mentioned, India's defense credit lines to Vietnam showcase our new future orientation, defense industry collaboration. Our energy partnership and development cooperation are moving into newer areas in sync with our needs and their capabilities. Connectivity is the new touchstone of our engagement with Vietnam and the rest of the ASEAN region to bring our economies and societies closer together. Domains like civil nuclear, space, and digital technologies are acquiring greater salience in our partnership as both our countries move decisively to embrace Industrial Revolution 4.0. Convergences in our international outlook make meaningful cooperation between us at the global stage much more likely. We have shared values and interests. Our views on most regional and international issues are broadly similar. As Deputy Minister Wu just mentioned, we both respect international law and rules-based order, and we both support reformed multilateralism. As India joins Vietnam as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council on the coming January 1st, our multilateral cooperation stands to get a new boost. As two maritime nations, India and Vietnam also have important stakes in peace, stability, and development of our shared Indo-Pacific. Whether it is India's Act East policy, or our Indo-Pacific vision, or our commitment to SAGAR, that is security and growth for all in the region, Vietnam figures prominently in each of them. Convergences between ASEAN's outlook on the Indo-Pacific and our Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative provide a useful roadmap to promote integration, connectivity, and cooperation in the region. As we can see, as close partners with multifaceted political, economic, and security cooperation, the horizon of India-Vietnam relations is bright. The task in front of us is to translate the multiple convergences and opportunities that exist into deeper cooperation in diverse areas of our engagement. I compliment the Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences and the Indian Council of World Affairs for taking this initiative to organize this webinar. Bringing together important stakeholders in a discussion like this will ensure that we remain focused in striving to realize the full promise of this incredible partnership between our two countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would finally request His Excellency Pham San Chau, Ambassador of Vietnam to India, to give his remarks.
Thank you very much. Namaste. The Minister of State Murali Rajat, Honorable Mr. Vice President of VISAS, Mr. Dang Nguyen Anh, Mr. Nguyen Minh Vũ, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador T.A. Rajanath, Chairman of Indian Council of World Affairs, Ambassador Pharma Verma, Indian Ambassador to Vietnam. I think that at this stage, I have not much to add to all the excellent keynote speeches presented by our two chief guests. And I also would like to concur with all what has said in the keynote speeches as well as in the speech by Ambassador Verma and our Vice Chairman Dang Nguyen Anh and Ambassador Rajat. I just want to add a number of points in order to illustrate what has been said about our bilateral relations. My first point is that, as the two chief guests mentioned, that we enjoyed a comprehensive strategic partnership and a strategic trust. I want to stress that during my time here, we have a very close cooperation with the Ministry of External Affairs of India in order to make sure that the interests of India at the UN Security Council is well secure and protected when Vietnam is serving as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. Having said that, I would like to stress that at the UN level, we have a very close cooperation. My second observation is that I believe that, as the chief guest mentioned, that India has Act East policy, and ASEAN is one of the pillars of that Act East policy. Having worked with other ASEAN colleagues, I also have to stress that the relationship between Vietnam and India is not the same as the relationship between India and other ASEAN countries. We can come up with a number of examples, and the recent incident of WPDs is one of those incidents. It reflected the fact that our relations indeed are very strong strategically, and we don't have a single problem that stands in our relations, neither on religions or minority or Indian diasporas. My third point is that we have one of our very strong sectors of cooperation, namely defense and security. India is one of the three comprehensive strategic partners of Vietnam, which is the highest classification of Vietnam foreign policy. But in those three partnerships, the cooperations in the sector of defense is very strong. It reflects a high level of strategic trust between our two countries. You have us in various fields, particularly in the field that we don't enjoy from other single country, let's say the training of the pilots or of the submarine staff. I want to stress on that point in order to illustrate what has been said by our previous chief guest, that the relations is indeed very comprehensive and strategic. Now I want to conclude by suggesting a number of new horizons as the topic of this discussion put forward. I really want to see more cooperations in archaeological cooperations between our two countries, because that matter will be able to reach out to many hearts of the Vietnamese people. The Vietnamese people feel India very close, not only because of the fact that Buddhism was born in India and spread into Vietnam. It's not because of the fact that every day they practice yoga, but I want them to understand that deep down we have very strong civilizational and cultural links between the two countries. And in the southern part of Vietnam, there are many Indian style towers, and those, if can be grouped together, it can serve as UNESCO site, as the other UNESCO site in India. That is one of the areas I want you to pay more attention to. The second observation is that in Vietnam, I also want to take this opportunity to convey a message to the policymakers of Vietnam about the importance of the pharma sector. In Vietnam, we talk a lot about how important pharma sector in India, how India is a pharmacist in the world, but they don't change yet the mindset that the generic drug in India are important. Sometimes they less consider it as equally important as those come from the Western countries. I think that this is the only opportunity for us to mention that to my Vietnamese colleagues, so that they can help us to develop Indian pharma in Vietnam. My third suggestion is about another strategic sector, which is gas and petrol. We have very successful over the past 36 years ONGC joint venture development in South China Sea. And now we have the new player, ESA, that ESA is intend to invest 11 billion US dollars in this project. This is a huge project. I hope that the government of Vietnam will give a due importance to this project, and that project will enjoy the tremendous support by the Indian government. I would like to conclude by saying that by quoting what has been said by Vice Minister Nguyễn Minh Vũ, that India is a global player. Vietnam recognizes the importance of India and support the growing role of India. On that occasion, we also want India to treat Vietnam in a truly brother manner. Of course, we have been brothers for centuries, and we are and we continue to be. So on that occasion, I suggest that India should not only mention reciprocities vis-a-vis Vietnam. Finally, I believe that this webinar is very important because that enrich our mutual understanding of each other, especially that connect with the academia in Vietnam, that will help to give input in the policy making of the Vietnamese government. And finally, I wish the webinar success, and I hope that this webinar will give more opportunities and more understanding about India to a bigger public in Vietnam, so that they will go to India to study and to learn more about India. Thank you very much, Excellency.
With this, we come to the end of our opening session. We will take a short break and join back at 14:35 hours Indian Standard Time and 16 hours Vietnam National Time. Thank you.
Kính thưa toàn thể quý vị, trước khi bắt đầu phiên hội thảo thứ nhất thì thay mặt cho ban tổ chức phía Việt Nam, chúng tôi xin trân trọng kính mời các quý vị khách quý và các vị đại biểu tham gia phần chụp ảnh lưu niệm.
Vâng, xin mời các chú, các anh chị lên chúng ta chụp.
Foreign Policy think tank.
Nhanh vì thời gian nó ít. Mọi người rất là khẩn trương, thời gian chia cho mình nhé. Dạ, bọn em xin phép chụp ạ. Dạ, mọi người nhìn giúp ạ. Một cười lên ạ. Đây là cái lúc đây cho mình chính thử nó giận hổ nhiên cho đấy cái bánh kia chưa không ăn đây máy của Nguyên mà chị vâng chị đây là cái chính đấy đây hết rồi kiểm tra không biết là có đâu
mà tôi đang bị vào viện nên là khắp lời cũng khó. Từ một ai biết không bị của chính là ra cùng cái này phản có học ở mặt kia
thật dây này không chọn không chọn được nhỉ chọn hình dưới rồi có được nó lên hình nó tự đấy không
nhìn ghê hoa một máy theo cái chị nó nhẹ hơn cả cái sau khi màu tại vì lấy ở Việt Nam đối với ta thì nhu cầu cái hoa phải tiêu giá nhà nó phải tính toán được không
Còn cà phê đầy của cái miếng lên mùi.
Cũng là những cái kiểu Việt Nam nó mất hết cái mùi thơm. Đây không uống gì nhỉ? Có nước hoa quả, có cà phê, mình tán lên cục cà phê cái đống giống như cây trong cái đường ăn kiểu đấy uống xong rồi về nó bán cái cây.
Welcome to the first panel discussion themed Vietnam and India in the new regional and global context. The discussions will be moderated by Professor Prabir De, Coordinator, ASEAN India Center. Before we begin with our first panel, here are the house rules. All speakers or panelists are requested to mute themselves when not speaking. Questions will be taken during the question and answer session. Panelists can ask questions to the speakers live through the raise hand option. Questions can also be asked by registered attendees live by typing through the chat box. These will be visible to all panelists. Questions may be kept brief and to the point. In case you are facing connectivity issues, you may switch off the camera and continue on audio mode. I would now request Professor Prabir De to kindly conduct the proceedings. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Thank you very much for the invitation and congratulations to both Vietnam Academy of Social Science and ICWA for hosting this webinar. As we have seen that we already have, brilliant and very rich deliberations by our 6 leaders. They have laid down a path for our panels to discuss, debate. And I'm very, very happy that this is the session. You have a 2 panel, one with the one I'm moderating, which is on the new regional and global context of the Vietnam-India relations. The other one, which is on new horizons in the India-Vietnam comprehensive strategic partnership. So as we have seen the deliberations in the inaugural session, that all the leaders, both the ambassadors, our ministers, they talked about comprehensive strategic partnerships and laid down many international development. So this session, the first panel session, we have 2 speakers to talk about their perspective, their narratives they will be sharing. First presentation by Dr. Sanjay Pulipaka, the Senior Fellow at the Delhi Policy Group, and then Associate Professor Nguyen Xuan Trung, who is also a very known person, the Director General himself from the Vietnam Institute for Indian Institute at VIISAS. I have so many friends in VIISAS and I can see them there. So very good afternoon to all of you. 5 major developments when you talk about regional and global context. I would just to raise these 5 points. No need that one has to take it up, or we can have a discussion later on when the opportunity arises. One is that the leader said very much that we have Indo-Pacific and rule-based international order. So this is a new development, not very recent, but certainly very, very much new and very much upfront nowadays when you talk about Indo-Pacific. I'm sure both the panelists will talk about the Indian and Vietnam narratives. They will share with us, we'll debate on that. Then remember that Indian Minister of State for External Affairs, he said the Supply Chain Resilience Initiative, which is very much important because the trade used to be in the pre-COVID, is taking a transformation to something new supply chains we see. And the supply chains are emerging, many of the cases like Vietnam. Vietnam is very important. That this is actually, to me, the center of gravity of our Actist policy, because Vietnam has so many FTAs. They have signed, ratified, and implemented. You name it. Vietnam is in ASEAN, Vietnam EU, Vietnam USA, Vietnam Japan. Vietnam is part of CPTPP. Vietnam is in RCEP. So Vietnam is basically a launching pad where the business and investments help to get in market access globally. So this is an interesting. So some of the presentations, in other occasions, they have been talking about India, Vietnam, bilateral FTA. So I just leave it there to panelists to talk about whether this is technically feasible or not. Point number 3 is more cooperation in health, pharmaceutical, digital economy, e-commerce. And I'm sure panelists in this session will shed more light on those issues, but there are challenges as well. One is that multilateral organizations, they are, we need to strengthen those initiatives. WTO, for example, where Vietnam and India both are the partners. So I'm sure this challenge is a common challenge for ASEAN countries, Vietnam in particular, or as well as in India. So panelists will talk about, I'm sure, this global challenge is coming on WTO issues. Last one for me, that Vietnam and India are partner in ASEAN, and as you know, ASEAN and India, they are up for review of FTA, which we signed in 2009 and implemented 2010. Vietnam and India is also partner in MGC, Mekong-Gonga Cooperation. Early next month, there will be an ICWN event on 20 years of Mekong-Gonga Cooperation. So many Vietnam scholars, they will be presenting their papers. So these are the 5 broad the global and regional developments I could share with the panel, and let's see what they talk and what they agree with me, or they give us much broader perspective. So with that note, I invite the first presentation, the first presenter, Dr. Sanjay Pulipaka. So as Dr. Bhattacharya said, the 10 minutes for you. So, Dr. Pulipaka, the floor is yours. Make the presentation, and do you have a PPT?
Yes, yeah. I am showing it to you right away.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me at the outset express my gratitude to Ambassador T.C. Raghavan, ICWA, and greetings to all the excellencies and other dignitaries present. I'm glad that Professor Prabir Day is chairing this session. He's a known expert in some of the areas that we are going to discuss, and I'm sure he will throw a lot more light than some of us here. I'll be broadly talking about Vietnam and India in their new regional and global context. So if that is the case, what is the new regional and global context that we are talking about? In my opinion, the international order is in the midst of a major structural shift. The world is increasingly becoming multipolar world order. The shift is not dramatic, as we have seen at the end of the Cold War, when there were spectacular events such as collapse of Berlin Wall. But it has been a sort of a slow and steady process which gained momentum, at least in the past few years. There has been an economic power shift to the Indo-Pacific region. There has been rise of China, which is talked about, but there have been rise of other powers also, which needs to be reflected upon. In the recent past, the growth slowdown in China has meant that the multipolarity, the intensity of the multipolarity in the world politics will get further strengthened. In international relations, it is often assumed that the structure of the international order will always determine the way nation states behave, but that may not be the case, as we are seeing in the recent past. Attempts to stop the movement towards multipolarity and establish bipolarity have been initiated in the recent past. One is the aggressive territorial assertions against other rising powers. There has been constraining of space for others in terms of irreversible economic dependencies, and then there is resistance to reforms in international organizations, which some of these established powers and others are trying to influence. The other important point that we need to keep in mind is that there has been significant strategic convergence between India and Vietnam in the recent past. One, both countries believe that multipolarity in Asia needs to be maintained. For instance, the 2019 Vietnam Defense White Paper points out that the global situation is evolving rapidly in a multipolar and multi-centered direction. And the Indian Prime Minister also pointed out that the multipolarity in the world order needs to be strengthened. Then there is both the countries are dealing with aggressive territorial assertions, and there has been reference to by both the countries, whether it is 2019 Defense White Paper of Vietnam, where there is a need, where it was pointed out that the territorial disputes need to be settled with caution and avoid negative impacts. Just a few days ago, we have I think yesterday India's External Affairs Minister Jaisankar pointing out that the respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty and peaceful resolution of disputes should be paramount. The other convergence that we are seeing between India and Vietnam has been that, as pointed out, is trying to make global institutions inclusive. India has been campaigning for the reform of the United Nations Security Council and United Nations in terms of processes and in the very character of the United Nations. And Vietnam has been at the forefront of supporting India's bid to become permanent member of the UN Security Council, and thereby expressing support to our attempts to reform the UN Security Council. In terms of connectivity projects, India believes that we need to have an open, transparent and equitable outcomes. In the recent past, Vietnam has felt that when so these principles are being violated, it has cancelled certain projects in its own country. What is often missed is the amount of work that other countries are doing during combating, in terms of combating COVID-19. Of course, Vietnam's combat in terms of fighting the COVID-19 is very well known in terms of domestic activities, and it has become an example for others to study and learn from Vietnam's anti-COVID response mechanisms. But what needs to be highlighted here is that when COVID-19 was in its initial stage as an epidemic in China, Vietnam was also one of the countries which donated the precious medical supplies it had to China. Similarly, India also donated 15 tons of medical gear and equipment to China in the early days of COVID-19 when it was still perceived to be an epidemic, not a pandemic. But once the epidemic turned into a pandemic, Vietnam has donated and it has taken care of the neighborhood in terms of medical supplies. Similarly, India is also supplying medical equipment to neighboring countries, and in some instances such as Maldives, COVID patients are being treated in India after transporting them from Maldives, which is also a very significant development. Vietnam has donated face masks to developed countries, European countries such as UK, France, Spain, Italy and Germany, and United States has purchased the protective gear. Vietnam has emerged as an important supplier of medical equipment. On the other hand, similarly, India has become a hub of vaccine production, and it has already supplied various kinds of medicines to more than 150 countries. So in terms of the regional and global context, in terms of combating pandemic, both India and Vietnam are adopting similar measures, whether it is towards China or whether it is towards regional context or in the global context. The coming to trade, this is an area which requires closer attention, and we need to improve our trade relationship. Currently, the trade relationship, as pointed out earlier, was about $12 billion, with India having a trade deficit about $2 billion. And it is only in the last 2-3 years that the trade deficit towards India, for India, has grown in the recent past. But it is important for us to remember, for India, Vietnam is a very important country. It has registered significant economic growth of 6.6% spread over almost 2 decades from 2000 to 2018, which is very important. In terms of India's imports, we import a lot of mobile phones and components, and Vietnam, of course, has emerged as an important export player in mobile phones. The trade spat between United States and China is also resulting in a lot of companies investing in Vietnam, and the ASEAN-India Free Trade Agreement is also facilitating import of circuit boards from Vietnam into India. In terms of exports, India is exporting cotton and fishery products. Vietnam is the 3rd largest textile exporter, and cotton imports from India are also playing a big role. So therefore, you see some kind of an integrated trade relationship that is emerging here between India and Vietnam. Of course, India is also talking about production-linked incentives to promote mobile manufacturers in India. We need to see how the initial indications are very positive. At a larger level, from a geopolitical level, if you see the regional politics, Vietnam is benefiting from the complex relationship that is there between South Korea, Japan and China, and Vietnam, from a geopolitical perspective, has become a site of investments for both South Korean and Japanese companies. And Japan, for India, is also the 4th largest investor. The US-China trade spat is also prompting many companies to shift to Vietnam. While India is aspiring for it, Vietnam is receiving a lot of investments. The one area where we need to work a lot more is the issues related to RCEP, and Prabir is an expert in this. What we need to keep in mind is more and more companies will be shifting to Vietnam because of RCEP. And the probability of India joining RCEP is very low at the moment, and Vietnam has been making persistent efforts that India joins the RCEP, which is looking increasingly unlikely at the moment. Vietnam is also diversifying its trade relations with the Vietnam-EU trade agreement, which also means that companies can invest in Vietnam. They will have easy access within the RCEP region and also export with relatively greater ease to European Union as well. Of course, India is making is a big market and is attempting to has successfully improved ease of doing business, and it is also re-examining trade relations with some of the big powers, and there is a talk of a limited trade deal coming up with the United States as well. In terms of what are the next steps, new horizons, that's what we are talking about. We need to build on the convergence in terms of conceptualizations. In some of the ASEAN countries, there was initially some hesitance with the word Indo-Pacific or with the concept of Indo-Pacific, and on the other hand, Vietnam has embraced the concept, and its 2019 National Defense White Paper talks about Vietnam is ready to participate, among other things, security and defense mechanisms in the Indo-Pacific region, as well as those of European Union and the United Nations. The other important issue that is coming up, which we need to figure out, is the Resilient Supply Chain Initiative. In September 2020, the economic ministers of India, Japan, and Australia talked about the need to enhance resiliency of supply chains. Just yesterday, the quadrilateral meeting talked about resiliency of supply chains was again reiterated. The idea of supply chain resilience is fast evolving with an intent to reduce excessive dependence on one country. It is, I mean, the RSCI is still evolving. The Resilient Supply Chain Initiative is still evolving. We don't know whether it will result in common border trade investments and standards. It is still too early to talk about it. But the important point, as Prabir pointed out, is Vietnam is at the hub of many economic networks, frameworks that are there, and it is important for India and other Resilient Supply Chain Initiative countries to engage with Vietnam in a much more concerted manner, because Vietnam has experience of dealing with these various frameworks and is an important economy in Southeast Asian countries. So that is an important next step that we need to take. In terms of new frameworks, we have been talking about Quad Plus in the recent past. March 2021 meeting took place, and May 2020 another meeting. Apart from the regular Quad countries, Korea, Vietnam, and New Zealand were called into the meeting, who became discussion partners here. There has been significant discussion about COVID-19 response, coordinated COVID-19 response in the Quad Plus meetings. Quad Plus promises to evolve into a robust framework. Probably it can deal more with HADR issues, and probably plans to share experiences of reviving economy and building a resilient vital supply chains, as was pointed out earlier. Vietnam fits well into the Quad Plus because of the geopolitical dynamics as well as its foreign policy posture. And Quad Plus is in consonance with its 3 no's policy, or now it is 4 no's policy. So that is no alliances, no bases, and Quad Plus in that sense, given its the way it is evolving, does not violate some of the core principles of Vietnam policy as well. And of course, Vietnam's defense white paper also talks about, while it has 3 no's, it is also open to defense cooperation and defense partnership, as was mentioned in the defense white paper with reference to port calls and naval cooperation. Lastly, most important thing is there is a lot of discussion of connectivity projects, and if Quad countries can collaborate with Vietnam and invest in certain infrastructure projects in Vietnam. For instance, some components of North-South Highway or the expressway that was planned, probably that would be a great step forward in strengthening the Quad Plus frameworks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pulipakar. Excellent presentation. You talked about the bilateral relations. You nicely laid down challenges, emerging issues, and the end you give us, new hope. So thank you very much. We'll come back to you once with that session of the question and answer. So let me go to the next speaker, presentation 2 by Associate Professor Nguyen Xuan Truong. So Professor Truong, 10 minutes for you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ravi Day. His Excellency Mr. Murali Haran, Minister of State for Internal Affairs of India, His Excellency Mr. Nguyen Minh Vu, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam, and Professor Dang Nguyen Anh, Vice President, Vietnam Academy of Social Science, Ambassador Dr. Rahab Van, Director General of ICWA, His Excellency Mr. Trainer Pharma, Mr. Pham St. Joe's, ambassadors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank ICWA for coordinating with us to hold this workshop. Long time no see, ICWA is first, my friends. ICWA is a very important partner of Vietnam Academy of Social Science. We agreed to organize annual dialogues between the two sides. It should be held in turn on each side. According to the plan this year, it will be held advanced this year, but due to the COVID pandemic, it was delayed so fast. So this webinar lost dialogues as planned, but it's a figure planned in the joint activities of the two sides. Today, around 10 minutes, I would like to talk some new problem or maybe barriers in the India and Vietnam relations and their solution. Obviously, this year, the COVID-19 pandemic has many negative impacts on both India and Vietnam. It seems that India has not much success in controlling the pandemic. Number of new cases is increasing rapidly recently. India's economic growth is forecasted to be very poor this year, in significant decline. Blind people are facing so many difficulties. Therefore, the community, business, and people response are boosting Prime Minister Modi's government under much pressure. While in Vietnam, basically, so far it seems to have a lot of successful. A lot of have been successful in controlling the COVID-19 pandemic. But the pandemic has left a lot of negative impacts on the economy and societies. However, forecast for Vietnam economic growth remains optimistic for the year 2000. The GDP growth is around over 2%. During this period, Vietnam is conducting the Party Congress from the local to central to prepare for the National Party Congress in early 2021. This is a very important political event of Vietnam. Therefore, Vietnam should not adjust any policy or move that damage the country's security environment and across. The COVID-19 pandemic is also have a negative impact on the Vietnam and India relations. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, many programs scheduled to strengthen bilateral relations between the two countries has been turned out, including the Vietnam-India Maritime Security Dialogue, Vietnam-India Politics Consultant and Strategic Dialogue, and Annual Security Dialogue. It is many dialogues. Consequently, the two sides lack a familiar voice in some strategic matters. As for me, I learned that there's been few barriers in Vietnam-India relations in the past 1 year. For example, India has many strategic ambitions and wants a more significant response from Vietnam, such as exploiting oil and gas issues, implementing and signing the credit package of $500 million issues, or India's asked Vietnam to support and participate in sovereign India initiatives related to the Indo-Pacific initiatives and the other region and global initiatives of India. Due to the difficulties and many issues to be considered, sovereign India strategic problem has not been met by Vietnam. Some India proposal has not yet received a firm commitment from Vietnam. In terms of the economic sector, India has taken a series of moves of trade policies. It's quite pragmatic. Vietnam is a comprehensive strategic partnership with India. However, economic and trade cooperation still have many barriers. For example, some adjustments since Prime Minister Modi began his second term includes some adjustment, adopted minimum price for some Vietnamese goods, such as the paper, cashew, or change the import policy for Vietnamese incense products. It has made the whole incense production industries and Vietnamese farmers in a difficult situation. On it's about change the policy import for television products or increase the unilateral tax on Vietnamese bamboo toothpaste or increase the unilateral tax on Vietnamese telecommunication equipment and accessories. So something and adopted many measures of trade defense and anti-dumping for some other products of Vietnam. I think that it seems a side think about the social interest. I think that. But that's there is the political and strategic relation between the two countries. And such moves are harmful to both sides and negatively affect the bilateral relation between the two countries. So, what we have to do now? So we have to solve this problem. I think that personally the two sides should stress more, understand more during these challenges periods that is facing to the negative impact of a pandemic and social distancing. India should share the sensitives towards Vietnam at this time. Vietnam is preparing for the National Party Congress next year and always leads a cautious step to maintain the political environment stability. and maintain social, economic development. And secondly, is both sides need to find ways to promote bilateral dialogues and meeting, increase the exchange and connection continuously. And there should be more meeting of the Joint Subcommittee on Trade to remove the problem with trade. I think it's very important problem, very basic problem. And the second meeting of the joint working groups on agriculture also should be held to discuss and resolve the problem in the agriculture sector. And the joint working groups in the health sector should be to help to address outstanding issues in the health sector. I think it's also very important. We need to force a dialogue. Certainly, for Vietnam, I think that Vietnam should consider maybe more active in supporting and accepting some of India's proposals, such as joining the Solar Energy Alliance or the Anti-Climate Change Infrastructure Alliance, the Traditional Medicine Cooperation Memorandum, and the Medical Plans Memorandum, so on. Yeah. And lastly, I hope that this formula is one of the activities to boost the dialogues between the two sides in Vietnam in the very in the conflict amidst periods, and to have the two sides more understand. I think that this can to boost the relation between the two countries better in the future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor, for an excellent presentation. You talked many detailing. As I have heard, whatever I could understood, there was a sound problem in between, through the digital mode. But I seen that you went into very detailing discussions on the post-COVID era, like the trade, agriculture, traditional medicines. You talked about the dialogue. You would focus about more on the bilateral dialogue between the two countries and many issues. So thank you very much, Professor Truong, once again for your presentations. Now we have with us exactly 10 minutes, and organizer reminded me that session has to be closed by 3:15 Delhi time, Indian time. So we have 10 minutes, and if you have any quick burning questions, maybe you can raise your I can see you who would like to speak. I have already received some requests, so if there is anyone, please raise your hand. I can see you, and then I will give the floor. Be specific. I just one questions or maximum two questions. So
can I speak?
Professor Kumar, Sanjeev, yes. Can you tell me who would like?
Yeah. Prabir sir, this is Vivek. So Sanjeev sir can go ahead and I'll follow.
Oh, okay. So Professor Sanjeev Kumar, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, please go ahead. You have to unmute, actually.
Dr. Kumar, you'll have to unmute yourself. Do one thing. Vivek, can you go ahead with asking your question, please?
Yes. Open question, Professor Mugan. Sanjay sir can answer this. I think two short questions. One is, Sanjay sir, you talked about Quad Plus mechanism. I would like you to sort of elaborate what does it really mean in terms of expectations on either side of Vietnam and of India. Of course, India is trying to generate more stakes on the other side of Strait of Malacca. How is Vietnam looking on the western side of Strait of Malacca in terms of the whole concept of Indo-Pacific? And in the recent Quad meetings, was there? Do you think there was a sense of expanding Quad Plus between the Quad members? Or at least having a sense thereof. So that, and of course, the second question is, what does ASEAN centrality mean for Vietnam in the context of the growing Sino-American rivalry? Thank you.
Thank you. We will collect.
May I ask?
Yes, we will collect the questions and then we'll come back to the presenters. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Let me also first congratulate the role, the leadership role which Vietnam has as chairman of ASEAN, as it was I would like to bring here the statement by Prime Minister Modi during Shangri-La dialogue in Singapore in 2018, and he said that the centrality and unity of ASEAN is lie at the heart of Indo-Pacific concept. So, the issue of centrality has already been discussed or raised. My question is about the unity of ASEAN. As we know, there were in recent past the unity of ASEAN collapsed due to the external pressure. And so my question is, how do you think, this question is addressed to our esteemed speaker from Vietnam, how do you think that the unity of ASEAN can be strengthened in coming times? The section is addressed to our Indian. I think that Chair has, Chair Professor Day has recently written about Indo-Pacific, where he highlighted the importance of quality infrastructure in Indo-Pacific and arranging finance for this. Whether the Sagar initiative of India and ASEAN 2025 connectivity initiative all that has been described as a master plan for connectivity for Indo-Pacific. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else, or otherwise I'll go straight to. There are questions in the chat box. I quickly read them out. It is by Dr. Biswajit Mahapatra from Northeastern Hill University. Quickly, what he said. It's question to Sanjay, that Dr. Sanjay Pulipaka, that can Quad Plus emerge like a regional replica of NAM in the Indo-Pacific region? What's the hope of its being long-time entity as a power player? Maybe I leave it to you. You may like to answer or may not be. It's not directly relating to your presentations. So we don't.
Professor, there might be some questions from VISAS. Dr. Nia, if you can ask your members if there are any questions from your side.
No, Dr. Huang, I can see you.
My question is for the Indian panelists.
Oh, please go ahead.
Yes, I agree with all the speakers on the very strong foundation of the relation between Vietnam and India. And this webinar shows that this very strong relationship. But I also agree with the Professor Min Xuân Trung about the difficulties of our relationship now, difficulties of both countries. Vietnam also facing difficulties in this time, and India is also facing a lot of difficulties, not only a pandemic, but also the problem with China. So in this difficult situation, in the I think the academic circle may feel that there may be two possibilities of the Indian policy towards the East. The first possibility is that India may pay less attention to the Act East policy, less attention to the Southeast Asia, including Vietnam, and including South China Sea. That's one possibility. And the other possibility is that exactly in this situation, India has to pay more attention to Act East policy, Southeast Asia, to Vietnam and South China Sea. So I would like to hear from the panelists about these two possibilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from Vietnam side, from Academic Social Science? Okay, I think they might be having... Oh, somebody has raised your hand. Please go ahead.
I have two ideas.
Be brief, please. We don't have much time.
In the presentation by Dr. Sanjay Pakar, I found the idea of the Quad Plus. This is a new and very good effort. The second is that in his paper, he found that the trade between Vietnam and India is dropping. So this is new difficulties. How should we recover this dropping, and how should we expand the
Sorry, I think we have lost him.
There is some audio issues.
Yeah, audio issues.
The panelists can go ahead with their answers.
Yeah. So I invite Dr. Sanjay to go ahead, be brief. No, you cannot answer everything short time, but whatever you could do. Thank you, Sanjay.
Yeah, a couple of questions on Quad Plus, whether it is NAM. I think it is probably, he mentioned NATO kind of, I mean, there has been comparisons with Quad Plus evolving into NATO Plus. I think NATO kind of an organization, I think it's too early for such kind of conceptualizations at the moment. One of the things that we need to keep in mind is we need to alter our understanding of the way alliances work in this new world order. It is not mandatory that at the time of conflict, the alliance partner will stand with you. There is always a possibility of abandonment. But the point is, the role of strategic partnership is what happens before hostilities are actually initiated. That is, how do you alter the balance of power? How do you alter capabilities of each other? That is what matters, and that is where Quad Plus becomes important. Vivek had a good question. Is Quad Plus agenda going to expand, or is it going to just confine itself to COVID-19? Yes, it is. It looks likely that it may expand. If you read the recent statements after the May meeting, not March meeting, but May meeting of Quad Plus, you will notice references to sustained economic recovery, communication establishments, and then there is also reference to resilience of supply chains. These are not specific to COVID-19 only. So Quad Plus is showing signs of expanding the agenda in that sense. On ASEAN centrality, I mean, of course, for Vietnam, ASEAN centrality is important, but the emergence of Quad Plus frameworks and the Quad and other things are not seen as competitive to ASEAN centrality, but as complementary to ASEAN centrality. And probably ASEAN, within ASEAN, Vietnam may find more receptive to such ideas. On whether India will pay less attention, no, sir. Let me assure you, on the contrary, India is scaling up its Act East policy in the recent past. This way we are scaling up our connectivity networks with Bangladesh in the past few months is phenomenal. The way we are recently, yesterday or day before, we had both our Foreign Secretary and our Defense Forces chiefs visiting Myanmar. That is important, and in the coming days, the scale of interactions between India and Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam, will register significant increase. I think I'm running short of time on Vietnam trade thing. I would like to say that the trade dip has happened also because we are calculating 2019-2020, which included a Jan-March quarter, where there has been some COVID-related disruption. Probably we need to factor that in. I think we should evaluate our trade relationship with Vietnam after we get over this COVID bump. I think I did not answer the question pertaining to Sanjeev Kumar, but I will first give space to our Vietnam colleague.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you very much. Professor Trung?
Yeah, thank you. I will give a brief on the ASEAN and Vietnam. I think that ASEAN is very important to Vietnam. The first is the neighbors countries sharing a lot of similarity between the Vietnam and other in ASEAN. And the second is a very big part of Vietnam, especially in the trade and investment. Each country in ASEAN is small and medium partner of Vietnam, but the ASEAN as a whole is very big partner of Vietnam. So and the third, ASEAN is now is in the integration progress very well, very good, and is the voice of ASEAN more and more bigger in the world. So Vietnam as a member of ASEAN also to get a lot of good things from the ASEAN countries. So I think that is very important, and so ASEAN is now also a very important part of India, and Vietnam is one of the member and very important part of India now. And just thank you.
Thank you very much. I won't be able to conclude. Just 2 words from my side. 2 excellent presentations, and we received many new ideas with this short, much pertinent to today's focus areas, to this theme. And I congratulate both the speakers and all the participants for listening to the panel discussions. So thank you once again for your attention to this session. I hand over this session to coordinator to Dr. Dhrubajyoti Bhattacharjee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. We will begin our second panel discussion, themed New Horizons in Vietnam, India Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. The discussions will be moderated by Professor Cu Chi Lai, Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences. I would once again take the opportunity to mention the house rules. All speakers, panelists are requested to mute themselves when not speaking. Questions will be taken during question and answer session. Panelists can ask questions to the speakers live through raise hand option. Question can also be asked by attendees live by typing through the chat box. These will be visible to all panelists. Questions may be kept brief and to the point. In case you are facing connectivity issues, you may switch off the camera and continue on audio mode. I would ask Professor Cu Chi Lai to please conduct the proceedings. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Vietnam Institute of Indian and West India Study and ICWA for having me as audience of this discussion and then as a facilitator to this very important discussion today. I also would like to thank the audience and everyone for having the patient staying here until now. It's very late evening in afternoon in Vietnam already. Our discussion entitled New Horizons in Vietnam, India Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. So with this title, it struck me the new horizons. The key words for our discussion of this panel is new horizons. Whenever we talk about the horizon, we refer to something very new and very unsure or very intensive. Something is very good, maybe, but also is not very good. So what kind of new horizon for Vietnam and India as our two very good partner and other countries in the region as well? So I think this is a very important question. So I think that this discussion is very important. But it's more important that what kind of policy, what kind of solution for us to embrace the opportunity or advantages, and what kind of policy, what kind of solution for us to address those challenges or darkness of the currency coming to us. So I think it's a very important discussion today. So for this discussion, we have two panelists. First one's Dr. Duruwalji Rajiv, a research fellow from the ICWA, and we have a second discussion, Dr. Dodhana, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of Journal of the Indian Asian Study of Academic Social Sciences. And thank you very much for our speakers joining our discussion today. And first of all, I would like to invite Dr. Bhattacharya to have this presentation. Are you ready?
Thank you, Professor Kuchilai. While the world, I'll be making my presentation, while the world witnesses one of the worst global health challenges for the last 1 year, there have been significant changes in global geopolitics that has brought forth the need of positive and dynamic thinking. With changing dynamics, shifts in geopolitics, and rise in conflict in myriad regions of the world, new challenges in the guise of actions adopted by state actors, assisted by non-state actors, relations between nations are being forged to balance and counterweigh such expansions and threats. When a shift in power positions occurs between a rising challenger and a dominant status quo power, is thus a period of competition for global leadership and may be critical for global systemic stability. And the role of regional equations and alliances become crucial for the maintenance of stability. India, though, has various social, economic, and strategic relations with most of the Southeast Asian nations. Vietnam remains to be the single most important Southeast Asian nation for India's security interests. As mentioned in the opening session, Vietnam is pivot to India's Act East policy. Vietnam is India's longest running security partner of substance in Southeast Asia, and this relationship remains robust. India-Vietnam relations are one of the most crucial bilateral relations India has in Southeast Asia. India and Vietnam have also elevated their relations from strategic partnership in 2007 to comprehensive strategic partnership in 2016. This means that both states have become more invested in boosting their bilateral relations in a wide array of fields. Both states are aware about each other's strategic compulsions and have forged closer strategic relations. In fact, Vietnam has welcomed India's involvement in the South China Sea on numerous occasions. Hanoi has been granting Indian oil firm ONGC Videsh Limited extensions to explore oil block 128, which is an area of dispute. The Indian Navy have been given the rights to use Vietnam's southern port of Nha Trang, which can be used for rest and recuperation even in times of crisis. Defense cooperation comes as an incredibly important dimension in the bilateral relationship. India has shown its willingness to enhance Vietnam's military capability. As has been mentioned before, New extended a $100 million line of credit in 2014, which was increased to $500 million in 2016 for procuring military equipment from India. Another area of strategic cooperation lies in India's capacity to offer training and maintenance for defense equipment, especially considering that New Delhi has developed a high level of proficiency in dealing with Russian defense equipment. This dimension of strategic partnership is expected to grow as Russian defense sales are also projected to increase in Southeast Asia. In the recently held 17th meeting of the Bilateral Joint Commission on Trade, Economic, Scientific and Technology Cooperation in between India and Vietnam, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs in a statement said that the meeting was co-chaired by our External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Pham Minh Minh via video conference. It appears that both sides have been pleased with outcomes of the meeting and the pace of the relationship. Minister Jaishankar was particularly appreciative of Vietnam's positive leadership of ASEAN this year, especially at a time when the region is battling the COVID-19 pandemic. Both sides reportedly also discussed recent strategic challenges in their respective neighborhoods. At the meeting, the two sides took stock of the state of the India-Vietnam Comprehensive Strategic Partnership and agreed to step up their defense and economic partnership. The two sides put special emphasis on areas such as civil nuclear energy, space, marine sciences, and emerging technologies. India and Vietnam also agreed to strengthen their strategic partnership in line with India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, or IPOI, and the ASEAN's outlook on Indo-Pacific to achieve shared security, prosperity, and growth for all in the region. IPOI is an initiative launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the East Asia Summit in Thailand in November 2019. The initiative is centered around 7 pillars, including maritime security, maritime ecology, maritime resources, capacity building and resource sharing, disaster risk reduction and management, science, technology and academic cooperation, and trade connectivity and maritime transport. India has called on Vietnam to partner on one of the 7 pillars of this inclusive and open initiative that brings together nations desirous of continuity to sustenance of oceans. Both India and Vietnam have maintained close relations with frequent meetings between senior officials from both countries. For instance, His Excellency Ambassador Pham San Chau, Vietnam's ambassador to India, recently met with Indian Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla and briefed him about the recent tensions following China's deployment of an H-6J bomber to Woody Island, part of the disputed Paracel Islands. The ambassador conveyed Vietnam's determination to further the bilateral comprehensive strategic partnership with greater energy and vigor. A recent virtual meeting also took place with the Vietnam Trade Office in India and Asean, where several additional areas of cooperation between India and Vietnam was identified. An Indian private sector firm, Larsen & Toubro, is developing the boats which will be procured through the credit line. In February this year, J.D. Patil, Director and Senior Executive Vice President of Defense and Smart Technologies at Larsen & Toubro, stated that 5 boats will be built by Larsen & Toubro while the remaining will be built in Vietnam. We are trying to finish the boats by mid-2021. Discussions are on currently to identify the systems that Vietnam may be interested in buying from India. According to defense sources quoted in the media, Hanoi is interested in India's Akash surface-to-air systems and Dhruv advanced light helicopters. Keeping in mind the strategic challenges in the Indo-Pacific region, primarily those posed by China, India and Vietnam have decided to work in close coordination at multilateral institutions such as the UN Security Council, where both India and Vietnam are elected to be non-permanent members in 2021. The two also decided to continue the momentum in regional strategic platforms such as those under ASEAN. This will be a continuation of the already vibrant conversations between India and ASEAN. Vietnam lacks in the manufacturing of small arms, which is associated with coastal security. There is significant scope for the manufacture of assault rifles that is used by the Indian Coast Guard personnel. The Indian Defense Establishment can also set up manufacturing facilities of carbines and small-range missiles for which the potential buyers will be both from India and Vietnam. India and Vietnam can also work out a coastal defense mechanism which could integrate coordination between marine or sea police, coast guards and navy, as well as coastal radar systems to thwart away attacks on commercial or strategic installations along the coast of both the countries. Both India and Vietnam hold wide range of offshore assets, including oil exploration sites and islands. The security of these assets should be reinforced by better aerial surveillance systems, and in this regard, the scientific and technological institutions, along with universities that have developed itself on such research, can undertake pioneering research-based projects. These satellites can be used for geospatial mapping as well as for gathering environmental data and sea explorations. There is also the scope of electronic and military aerial radar systems in which India has made substantial technological progress, especially in the case of vehicle-mounted electronic aerial radar systems, which can also work as an electronic guidance for countermeasures. India and Vietnam can work on flat surface electronic aerial radar, which can be installed in various islands. There are other defense collaborative possibilities. The case of exporting Dhruv and Kamov helicopters, which are produced under Russian license to Vietnam, also remain beneficial. The Russian license to the versatility of the Kamov helicopters would remain significant as they're efficient for monitoring and undertaking difficult terrain operations during times of need. India has also developed the Griffon 8000 TD, a multi-purpose hovercraft developed along with Griffon Hovercraft Limited, England, which has been inducted by the Indian Coast Guard. Such technology will certainly benefit the Vietnamese Marine Police significantly. With the rise of the Asian century, there is a need to strengthen the ancient bonds that existed before. With various strategic regional forums in place in Southeast Asia, India, which has a robust expertise in defense and space technologies and hardware production, is slowly turning into an approachable destination as well as a viable partner for such forums. India and Vietnam has come a long way together, building and fostering a relationship based on mutual trust and understanding. With the fast-changing strategic scenario in this neighborhood and the rising challenges that is faced by Vietnam, India can play a larger role in strengthening the regional strategic theater by coming closer to Vietnam in the strategic and defense sectors. With the sharing of each other's expertise and technological know-how, especially the manner in which Vietnam tackled COVID-19, which should be a template for many nations, they will be able to counter the rising challenges that are fast taking shape in the region. Both together can counter the larger powers at play, threatening the regional stability and strategic maritime routes. India's main goal should be to uphold its ties with Hanoi and to use it as a model for other states in the region to forge closer strategic partnerships. India can engage with states of Southeast Asia using similar elements that make up India-Vietnam relations, such as the extending line of credit for defense acquisition and the training and maintenance of defense equipment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for what's our presentation, Dr. Bhattacharya. He is also presentation is with detail of the potential for cooperation between India and Vietnam in terms of defense and security area. I think it's a very good presentation. It's an excellent presentation. So next presentation is from Dr. Leti Hanga, please.
My very good afternoon and good evening to all dignitaries and excellencies, distinguished participants, moderators, my co-panelists, and all participants from Vietnam and India. First of all, I would like to express that it is my great privilege to be the only woman having the opportunity to speak at this important international webinar jointly organized by ICWA and VIISAS. It is also an advantage to be the last speaker of the panel discussion because I have chance to listen to all our distinguished speakers and be enlightened by their insight. Today, my presentation will be divided into two main parts. The first part evaluates recent development of India-Vietnam relations in areas of politics and diplomacy, economy and cultural exchanges in the past 3 years since the last Joint Commission meeting in 2018. Part 2 will be some recommendation for the future cooperation between the two countries. First of all, I would like to highlight some important visits of the two sides in the last 3 years. I divide the recent development of bilateral relations into two sub-periods, that is, before COVID-19 and after the outbreak of the COVID-19. Before COVID-19, there were several high-level visits from India to Vietnam and also from Vietnam to India. From the Indian side, Minister of External Affairs, Madam Sushma Swaraj, visited Vietnam from 28 August 2018 to co-chair the 16th Joint Commission meeting and attended the 3rd International Conference on the Indian Ocean in Hanoi. President Ramnath Kovind visited Vietnam from 18 to 20 November 2018, and it was the first visit to Asian country after his coming to office. From 9 to 12 May 2019, Vice President of India, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, visited Vietnam, attended the 16th UN VIISAS. From Vietnam side, we have the visit of Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc to be the chief guest of Indian Republic Day celebration and attended India-ASEAN Commemorative Summit from 24 to 26 January 2018. President Trần Đại Quang visited India officially from 2nd to 4th March 2018. And most recently, we witnessed the visit to India by Vietnamese Vice President Mrs. Đặng Thị Ngọc Thịnh. So after the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the diplomatic activities between Vietnam and India did not stop. On April 13, the two Prime Ministers Nguyen Xuan Phuc and Narendra Modi had a phone call to discuss cooperation in epidemic prevention and strengthening bilateral comprehensive strategic partnership. And recently, 25th August, Foreign Minister of the two countries co-chaired the 17th meeting of the Joint Commission on Economic, Trade, Scientific and Technical Cooperation. So we see that the success of the 17th session of Vietnam-India Joint Commission, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, proves that Vietnam-India engagement have not been prevented by the COVID-19. On the contrary, after initial disruption, we have been able even to have a better relationship. We have got some good news and good signal, and that is, I think, the meaning of the new horizon that we are talking about. So in the past, although there was no COVID, we did not have continuous sessions of the Joint Commission. Sometimes the interval between the session was 4 to 5 years. So, and the next point I want to make is in terms of trade between the two countries. In terms of trade, bilateral trade between India and Vietnam has been steady growth over the past year. In 2019 and 2020, bilateral trade slowed down to some extent, largely due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. But India continues to be the 7th largest trading partner of Vietnam globally, and Vietnam is the 4th largest trading partner of India in ASEAN, after Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia. It is encouraging knowing that Vietnam's trade with India is ahead of Thailand's, and it is also encouraging knowing that bilateral trade between Vietnam and India are regaining momentum. Two-way import and export turnover in June 2020 increased by 72% compared to May 2020 and nearly reached the normal level before the COVID-19 pandemic. So the two countries need to strengthen cooperation in areas where the two countries have strengths and advantages. In the previous speeches, other speakers have spoken about many aspects. So now, due to the limitation of time, I will focus on elaborating one aspect, that why textile may be made one of the key cooperation sectors in Vietnam-India relations. As you may know, that textile is the second main export sector of Vietnam with a turnover of up to 36 billion USD, nearly equal to 38 billion USD of India. India has a long-standing textile industry with a strength based on a series of natural fibers such as cotton, jute, silk, wool, and also synthetic fibers such as polyester and nylon. This advantage will be a valuable addition to Vietnam, which depends heavily on imported raw material for the textile industry. Speaking at the international webinar, Weaving Relations, Textile Traditions, to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's birthday on 3rd October last week, Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi, emphasized the value of textile sector as the key sector for the implementation of self-reliant India strategy. It provides the largest number of jobs for India. Mahatma Gandhi used charkha, the spinning wheel, as a strong weapon to bring about India's freedom. The simple charkha captured the imagination of the people and became the key symbol for Indian national movement. It found resonance with self-reliance at the grassroots level. So we see textile help bring about not only economic results, it can also bring about social empowerment for Vietnam and India. Prime Minister Modi further emphasized India's textile tradition has showcased powerful ideas and principles, including diversity and adaptability, self-reliance, skills, and innovation. These principles have become even more relevant now. They help us better prepare for the future in this challenging time. Given its meaning, textile can be made a symbol of India-Vietnam relations in the years to come. The last point I would like to touch upon is that in the last 3 years, the cultural exchanges and people-to-people contact between the two countries has seen major development. I think COVID-19 has opened up new chances for us to understand each other much better. We have gone far in overcoming the lack of mutual understanding. Through official channels and webinars, the Vietnamese people have had more precise knowledge about India. The Swami Vivekananda Indian Cultural Center, SVCC, under the active directorship of Dr. G.B. Harisha, has done a lot to bring Indian culture closer to the Vietnamese people and change the image of India in Vietnam. More Vietnamese people from all social groups and ages know more about Indian culture. Many Indian names have become popular in Vietnam. Indian now is not only about Rabindranath Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, or Jawaharlal. It is also about Swami Vivekananda, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Kuvanpu, Subhash Chandra Bose, and many more other national heroes. Indian yoga is not just a kind of physical exercise, it is also about the deeper meaning of spiritual development. We have heard about a very large monolithic sandstone Yoni set dated 9th century in central Vietnam, excavated by the Archaeological Survey of India in May this year, which showcased the civilizational connect between India and Vietnam. The Indian people have also known more about Vietnam. Vietnam is not only about the war, it is also about being strong in time of peace, about beautiful natural and historical sites. All of these things may not bring about concrete achievement in the form of number of volumes, but it will surely help to foster our willpower and determination so that we can act more strongly in all areas of cooperation. SPCC, Indian Embassy in Vietnam, Vietnam Embassy in India, research institutions of two countries, such as ICWA and VIISAS, have played very active role in bringing about this change. I think Ambassador Phạm Thanh Châu and Ambassador Pranay Verma and many others have made cultural diplomacy and public diplomacy more effective than ever before. Observing the development of Vietnam-India relations in the past few years, I see that the bilateral cooperation has been constantly strengthened. I am quite uneasy with the following observation that Vietnam-India cooperation has made remarkable achievements, but the results are not commensurate with the potential. This has also been pointed out by the keynote speech of the Minister of State for External Affairs of India. The question is why the cooperation between the two sides is not commensurate with the potential. We have had good mechanisms and policies. Our political relation is at the top level. It is like a cloud-lit sky, and we highly appreciate each other's role in regional and international fora. So what is it that we are lacking to make our cooperation fully effective? I remember an old English saying that where there is a will, there is a way. Yes? Where there is a will, there is always a way. So similarly, in Vietnam-India relation, if we have enough willpower and determination, we can achieve our goal. So I think what is needed is to inculcate a will in the mind of each individual and all the staff who are actually implementing the various cooperation agreements at different levels. Although political relation has mostly been exceptionally friendly in doing business together, things often do not go smoothly as we expect, and many people might want to give up in the process. So in the previous seminar that I had chance to attend, I often recommended many things, but today I do not wish to repeat those things. So I think that for all the proposal and recommendation to be put into practice, the most important factor is the human factor. From Vietnamese side, I think we should create a group of people, something like eminent persons group, who have good command of English with deep understanding of India and are willing to overcome the most challenging difficulties in working with Indian partners. From the Indian side, I also think there should be a bigger group of Indians being created who have not only good understanding of Vietnamese culture, but also are willing to adapt to the local culture of Vietnam. With that, I would like to end my presentation here. Thank you for the kind and patient attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nga, for very good presentation. You have made very good review. Trade in investment, diplomacy, and other areas, and you also have made a very good suggestion. The will and the way. I think it's very, very important. So we have listened to presentation from India and Vietnam. I think these presentations are very good and suggest some very good recommendations for us to improve our relationship about the strategic partnership. So because of time we run out already, so may I propose we will have one question and comment from each side. So one question from Vietnam and one question from the other side. So please, have a brief introduction.
Thank you, Professor Kuchile. I am from the Institute for Southeast Asian Studies. I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to participate in this event. A very interesting new regional and world context and new horizons of Vietnam-India relations. And I have a question mixed with some comments for a speaker from both from Vietnam and from India, but mostly directed to a speaker from India. I also have the same thought with Chair Professor Kuchiloi about what is new horizon. I wonder, what is that? And I would like to ask speaker, could you paint clearer and more concrete about the new horizon in relationship between India and Vietnam? How would it be brighter or brightest or dark or something else, the horizon? Because we know that India now considered as big power in the world, was also big members, and Vietnam is considered as a medium power in Asia-Pacific. As a relationship between two countries has long traditional and developed. But it, as mentioned by key speaker, also mentioned by Dr. Lê Thị Hằng Nga, that the relationship in barrier stream between Vietnam and India is not up to its potential, and how we should do to make it up to the potential of the relationship between the two countries. And I think that Professor Dr. Nga is biased in this event because she said that she, in previous webinar, she had given some recommendation for enhancing relationship between the two countries, but in this event she did not. And how? I would like to listen to that, some recommendation and solution for enhancing relationship between the two countries. Now I think that India is a what? Is a
Thank you very much, Dr. Wang, for the question. Would like to have India figure to elaborate a little bit more about the new horizon. What the new horizon and any challenges and opportunity. Thank you very much. Please, Dr. Parachari.
Certainly, as I have mentioned that as the person who asked question, is it going to be brighter or brightest, or it's going to be dark? The understanding that Vietnam and India, not only in the level of the leadership, but on the level of as by our presentation by Dr. Nia, the understanding that we have among us people to people, it can only grow, cannot go dark. So the new horizons which we have will be bolstered with more and better understanding between the two leaderships and more understanding between people of the now like when we have direct air link. So naturally, it becomes easier for people from India to move over, to visit Vietnam, from Vietnam to visit India. And naturally, there has been a little bit of a hesitation in basically discussing how already a strong relationship can be made stronger. But the more linkages will be set up in this way, like Airlink, like link as Dr. Pulipaka has said, links business chambers of commerce, like more understanding between business houses in Vietnam and in India. Naturally it will be growing more in the forthcoming years. As we have seen, even during the pandemic, when transport or like going over to the countries was not possible. The amount of digital linkages set up between India and Vietnam on multiple platforms, from business houses, from the foreign secretary side, from the foreign minister side, on the platform using ASEAN. So the number of platforms that have been used is naturally shows that there is a mutual like understanding where we need to grow our relationships more, rather than it's like feeling that it is stagnant or it is not growing as it should grow. And because the understanding between the two countries is so strong, the linkages is so strong, it has to grow in the future. That's what my take is. And Chair, there is some question for Dr. Nia in the chat box. Asked if you can check the chat box. There are some questions for Dr. Nia. Should I read out the question?
Any question?
There are two questions like, what is the current state of India-Vietnam cooperation in the financial sector? Since in order to further boost bilateral trade, there is a need to establish a robust network of financial mechanisms, as it would encourage greater trade by also enabling smoother payment options. This is from Dr. Ao, Temjan Ao. Dr. Pragya Pandey has asked Dr. Nia, what specific areas should be focused in for India-Vietnam bilateral cooperation within the broad framework of the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative and AIPO? These are the two questions from the Indian side to Dr. Nia.
Thank you very much for your two questions. So, Nia, can you take it?
Thank you very much for the very interesting question put for me, and thank you for raising also important questions that give me more chance to speak. So yes, in the previous presentation, I have also put forward a few recommendations. Like I used to say that the Vietnam, India, we should promote more educational cooperation. That is one example, because like as we we remember the saying that educational cooperation education can be used as the strongest weapon to change the world. And I think the people who have received education from India will be the informal ambassador who will work to promote the future bilateral relation between the two countries. That is just one example. So that is one thing. And regarding other questions, there is one question putting that what is the specific areas that Vietnam and India should promote in the Indo-Pacific framework, as pointed out by other speakers and also in many recent online conferences, that Vietnam and India should promote cooperation in areas that the two countries have strength, like pharmaceutical, healthcare sector, textile and garments, and information technology, where India has a very strong development, and also Vietnam's in need of that. So that are a few sectors I would like to point out. And regarding the question on the current state of financial sector. I think this is on economic aspect, and I would like to take the help from Professor Chung, please, or some Professor Juan.
Anyway, thank you very much for the answer. We can leave the third question for someone expertise or later on. So thank you very much for your presentation, and two speakers have made a very good presentation and have a very good answer to both questions. And can you join me to give big applause to close this section? Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Kuchilai. Now, with this, we come to the end of our panel discussions. I would request Dr. Le Thi Hang Nia, VIISS, to deliver her words of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharjee. Distinguished guests and participants, after about more than 2 hours of deliberation, our conference has nearly come to its end. We have had a very fruitful discussion about India-Vietnam in regional and global context, as well as bilateral cooperation in many areas. And we see that there are many things to be done in the future that require our further collaboration. On behalf of the organizing committee from VIISAS, we would like to express our deep gratitude to our honorable guest and eminent speaker, His Excellency Vice Minister Nguyễn Minh Vũ, Professor Đặng Nguyên Anh, Vice President of Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences, Ambassador Pranay Verma, Ambassador Phạm Thanh Châu, for the kind acceptance to deliver the remark at this international webinar at a very short notice. We would also like to take this opportunity to express our deep thanks to our honorable guest from the Indian side, His Excellency V. Muralidharan, Ambassador Dr. T.C.I. Raghavan. We are also thankful to the panelists, Dr. Sanjay Pulipaka, Professor Nguyễn Xuân Trung, Dr. Rubaijyoti Bhattacharjee, and myself. We are also would like to express our sincere thanks to Professor Kuchilai, Professor Dr. Prabhide for kindly moderating the panel discussion. We are also very thankful to our partner, the Indian Council of World Affairs, for all the preparation and coordination, to the Embassy of India in Hanoi for their immense support, both in terms of mental and material support. I also wish to thank all the staff from VIISAS, Ms. Nguyen, Ms. Terling, and many others. I cannot name all of them, I'm sorry for that. Our technician, Mr. Chung from VAS, the Department of International Cooperation from VAS, for their hard work in the preparation of this conference. Our sincere thanks also goes to the participants from India and Vietnam, both online and offline, for sparing precious time to attend this conference. Without the combined effort of many people, it is possible to make this conference a reality in a short time. So thank you all. Best wishes to all of you. Stay safe and stay healthy. And my goodbye, and hope to see you again face to face in the near future. Thank you.
On behalf of the Indian Council of World Affairs, I would like to extend our gratitude to His Excellency Mr. V. Muralidharan, MOS, MEA, Government of India, and His Excellency Mr. Nguyen Minh Vu, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Vietnam, for their august presence at our webinar and for sharing their thoughts and guiding us. Our thanks to Ambassador Pranay Kumar, Ambassador of India to Vietnam, and His Excellency Ambassador Pham San Chu, Ambassador of Vietnam to India, for their support to facilitate today's program. I take this opportunity to thank all our panelists and moderators for their time and our participants for their attention and questions. And lastly, I express my thanks to Professor Dang An, Vice President, VIISAS, and his team for their support, Dr. T.C.A. Raghavan, Director General, ICWA, Mr. Shomin Bagji, Deputy Director General, ICWA, Ms. Nusrat Kapoor Mahavar, Joint Secretary, ICWA, Dr. Nivedita Ray, Director Research, and the rest of the ICWA research and technical team for their support. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward the continued partnership and engagement between ICWA and VIISAS. Thank you.
Namaste.
Cảm ơn